Hey everyone, this is going to be a slightly different video. I just want to highlight a feature in Telltale's Game of Thrones. If you're in the main menu, as we are right now, and you click Codex, you will actually receive a bunch of background information on the majority of the characters we've encountered up until this point. And I thought this would be important as a side thing, I don't know, for those of you out there that are really into the lore and backstory of games such as this. So we're going to receive some additional information for pretty much every character we've encountered so far. And I'm going to read out every little snippet. We have some characters in here, and I think there's one for Ironrath itself, and I'm going to read them all out. Here we go. Gregor Forrester, the Lord of Ironrath, or the past Lord, I should say. Lord Forrester was the Lord of Ironrath and a bannerman of House Stark. As a youth, he famously arm-wrestled Galbart Glover for the privilege of becoming the man's squire. Glover later joked that he'd gladly lose the match all over again. Gregor married Alyssa Branfield, a daughter of Southron Targaryen loyalists, before Robert Baratheon seized the Iron Throne. Gregor ascended to the lordship after his father died at the Trident and led House Forrester for 16 years until he was slain at the Twins, which of course was at the Red Wedding. We were there as Garrett. Next we have Lady Alyssa Forrester, Lord Forrester's wife. Alyssa Forrester was born to House Branfield, a minor Southron house that was destroyed when the Targaryen dynasty fell. She had been married to Gregor for many years when Robert's rebellion signaled her family's demise, yet she nonetheless felt conflicted between her father's loyalties and her husband's. In time, Alyssa came to feel that Ironrath was her true home, and she embraced her role as the Forrester matriarch. She has silently sworn that she'll never see her family destroyed again. But it seems that's happening. I assume you've seen my last videos, in which case we witnessed Ryan be taken hostage by Ramsay Snow, and then of course Ethan, who we'll get to later, has been killed, unfortunately. Roderick Forrester, here we go. He is the firstborn son who we saw die at the Red Wedding. Lord Forrester's eldest son, Roderick, was trained from an early age to shoulder the burdens of leadership. In truth, he was built for the role, strong, charismatic, and formidable on the battlefield. When Robb Stark called his banners to war, Lord Forrester asked Roderick to stay behind and protect Ironrath, but Roderick would have none of it. Instead, he rode off at his father's side and led the Forrester cavalry with such valor that his name came to be feared among the ranks of the Lannister soldiers. Roderick fell in battle at the Red Wedding and is presumed dead, meaning that he will most likely show up alive at some point and is presumed dead. We will see him return. I'm predicting it now. He will return later on in another episode. I mean, we didn't see him die, actually. He was just crushed by a horse. His bottom half was crushed by a horse, so maybe he's gonna return just like with some massive leg braces, or he'll go the route of Bran and have a massive giant carry him around. Maybe Brienne. He can ride around on Brienne of Tarth's shoulders. Next up we have Asher Forrester, the exiled second son, and up until this point, really, in the first episode, we have no information about Asher other than his exile. And this is why I find the Codex very interesting. We get some really good information here about Asher that I'm sure we'll receive in the next episode, but we haven't actually started playing it. This is between the first and second episode, and I thought maybe this would be some good information for you guys to have before we start playing the second episode. But anyway, Asher Forrester is the exiled second son. Asher had always been a rebellious youth, brawling in taverns, sleeping with whores, and finding ways to raise his father's ire. Much like Tyrion, it seems, but his life took a dark turn when at age 17 he fell in love with Gwyn Whitehill, the eldest daughter of his father's bitter rival. Bloodshed ensued and Lord Forrester faced a grim choice: go to war or exile Asher across the narrow sea. He chose the latter, obviously. Asher remains in Essos to this day, living as a sellsword, trying not to think about the life he left behind. Mira Forrester, we've met her in King's Landing, and we've actually played as her. She is the eldest daughter. Mira had always been fond of Ironrath, but Lady Forrester, wanting her eldest daughter to learn the ways of a Southron court, arranged for Mira to serve as a handmaiden to Margaery Tyrell. To Mira's great surprise, she enjoyed attending on Margaery at High Garden and followed her to King's Landing with enthusiasm. Life in the capital has not been easy for Mira, as her straightforward northern ways are often at odds with the subtleties of court life, but she also has more guile than she realizes. Ooh, look at that. She's even holding a little letter denoting her shadowy reputation, I suppose. But see, this is another nice bit of information as to how Mira ended up in King's Landing to begin with. Now we know. Next up, we have Ethan Forrester. Look at this. Thoughtful as fuck. The third-born son. Whereas his older brothers were natural warriors, Ethan always found himself drawn to pursuits of the mind, particularly music and books. He also bore a great love for the towering trees of Ironrath, a love he shared with his twin sister, Talia. Ethan was just a boy when House Forrester joined the War of the Five Kings, but by war's end he had been thrust into a role he was unprepared for. Sadly, his lordship did not last long. Ethan was murdered in cold blood by Ramsay Snow, the bastard son of Roose Bolton. And this snippet of information here leads me to believe that you cannot save Ethan. I actually have not looked into it yet. I just ended the first episode, and I really am tempted to look online about how the choices will affect your playthrough, but at the same time, I think I'm going to wait until I finish maybe like the second episode or the third episode before I look at the choices from the first. Next up, we have Talia Forrester, the second-born daughter. During her fourth pregnancy, Lady Forrester dreamed she would birth a daughter with a voice like summer rain, but as fate would have it, she gave birth to a boy. Damn it. Some places would look up to that, as has been historically the case, but no. Really, she was, that is, Lady Forrester was really hoping for a daughter. The infant Ethan wailed for hours until Lady Forrester entered a second labor, this time birthing a girl. She named the girl Talia, after her own mother, and from then on Ethan hardly ever cried. Her dreams came true, for Talia has a lovely singing voice, though her tunes have all been sad ones since her twin brother's murder. Yeah, that tends to happen when someone gets killed. You tend to be quite sad. I don't know what's going on with Ryan here. He's got a really weird jacket with the padded arms. It kind of looks like bandages. But anyway, Ryan Forrester is the fourth-born son, and as a result will be truly shit on for the rest of his life. Unfortunately. Ryan Forrester, the fourth-born son, the last of the Forrester children, Ryan grew up idolizing his older siblings and spent many an hour chasing Ethan and Talia through the grove. His youth has been pleasant and shielded from responsibility, but recently Ryan's innocence has begun to fade. When the war began, Ryan was too young to understand why Roderick and his father were leaving home, but the grim realities of a house at war have been impossible to avoid, and Ryan is now being held hostage by House Whitehill. Here we go. Our main man, Garrett, the absolute badass that he is, manages... I mean, he's only a squire and he manages to kill a few soldiers. Well, I mean, we are a professional soldier, and I'm not sure if those Boltons or Whitehills were. So I can't really say, or even the phrase. Did we kill some phrase? I can't remember. Anyway, Garrett Tuttle, squire to Lord Forrester. Garrett was raised on stories of heroism about the likes of Arthur Dane and Simeon Stareyes. Though the son of a pig farmer, he has always aspired to one day become a warrior himself. With the help of his uncle Duncan, who had risen from lowborn origins to become Castellan of Ironrath, Garrett found works in Lord Forrester's stables, rising through the ranks to eventually be named his squire. After the Red Wedding, Garrett found his family murdered and took vengeance. He was subsequently sent to the wall. Okay, let's see. Duncan Tuttle is next, of course, Garrett's uncle. He is the Castellan of Ironrath. As a boy, Duncan showed such talent for managing his family's farm that everyone assumed he'd one day take over, but Duncan was fated to run more than fields and a pig pen. In time, he struck up an unlikely friendship with Gregor Forrester, the heir to House Forrester. The two grew close, and when Gregor became lord, he named Duncan his Castellan. Many eyebrows were raised, but Duncan proved himself worthy and has served the house well in the long years since. Yet another useful bit of information: how did Duncan Tuttle and Lowborn come to such a position of honor? Next, we have, of course, Sir Royland de Gore. We never knew de Gore's family name, but there it is, Sir Royland de Gore, Ironrath's Master-at-Arms. Royland de Gore joined Lord Forrester's army after his family was wiped out by Ironborn during Balon Greyjoy's rebellion. De Gore had a natural grasp of military tactics and strategy, and came to play a crucial role in the siege of Pike that ended the war. In the months that followed, King Robert awarded Royland a knighthood, and Lord Forrester asked him to serve as Ironrath's Master-at-Arms. Sir Royland still holds the position and is known for his military expertise, as well as his legendary temper, and that is why we did not choose him as our sentinel. That temper would most likely get us fucked up. Though I have to say, what would have happened if Royland were in that Great Hall when Ramsay was going crazy as fuck? Would Sir Royland have stepped up to the plate and drawn his sword and gone fucking buck wild? Who knows? We'll find out in a couple of weeks, I suppose. Maester Ortengrin, Maester to Ironwrath. Originating from a minor house in the Vale, Maester Ortengrin studied at the Citadel in hope of being assigned to the Eyrie, but by the time he'd earned enough links on his chain to graduate from Acolyte, John Arryn had been murdered and the South was in turmoil. The Citadel ultimately assigned Maester Ortengrin to the Ironwrath, where he soon came to respect the Forrester family's honor and integrity. He now serves the Forresters with pride and has become a trusted advisor to the Lord. Malcolm Branfield, Lady Forrester's brother. As a young man, Malcolm was the black sheep of the Branfield family. He liked to roam the countryside in the style of a hedge knight, refusing his father's offers of marriage and lands. Malcolm fought bravely alongside his brothers when House Branfield fell, yet he and his sister were the only two survivors. In recent years, Malcolm has lived with Lady Alyssa's new family at Ironwrath and is the last of the Branfield line. He is currently across the Narrow Sea, hoping to bring Asher Forrester home from exile. And another thing, what if we weren't to send Malcolm? What would have happened then? Just all these questions. And then we are finally at the place of Ironwrath itself. Ironwrath, ancient seat of House Forrester. An imposing stronghold surrounded by towering ironwood trees, Ironwrath marks the ancestral home of House Forrester. Built over 1,500 years ago by Cedric Forrester and his triplet sons, Ironwrath is a testament to the strength and endurance of Ironwood itself. More than one visitor has called Ironwrath the most striking keep in the north. Even Ned Stark was said to be envious. Ironwrath sits on the edge of the largest ironwood forest in Westeros, which has proven to be a strategic advantage for the house. See, I wouldn't have known that Ironwrath was a coveted strategic stronghold. But there you go, everyone. Just a little bit of background information that the few among you might find interesting. I found it interesting myself, and you guys wouldn't have access to this information if it wasn't for a video like this. So I felt it prudent to put out something like this, and I think depending on how much information we receive or how much the information changes, as I feel that it would change from episode to episode, I may actually put one of these videos out between every episode of Game of Thrones, because it might be helpful, or, you know, it might be interesting to some people out there. But anyway, everyone, thank you for watching. I guess I'll see you guys when we begin episode 2 of Telltale's Game of Thrones.